Very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. And in the next half an hour, I'll take you through the biggest news stories from India and across the world, stories that are changing our world, and also be telling you what to expect in the day ahead, starting with the headlines. Tata Court pronounces death for two in 1993 Mumbai bomb blast case. Life imprisonment for Abu Salim and Karimullah Khan. Fifth convict gets 10 years in jail. NIA searches at 11 places in Jammu and Kashmir and National Capital Region in connection with a probe into terror funding. Close aides of Hurriyat leader Shabir Shah among those raided. Death toll due to swine flu in Odisha climbs to 44. 2 fresh deaths reported. 44 deaths have been reported from Madhya Pradesh since July. US President says military action against North Korea not inevitable. This as Mexico expels North Korean ambassador in view of the latest missile test. And Hurricane Irma continues to cause widespread destruction in the northern Caribbean islands. At least 10 people killed so far. Florida on high alert, orders evacuations. The top story this morning, 24 years after the serial bomb blast in Mumbai, a special court sentenced 2 men to death and another 2, including extradited gangster Abu Salim, to life imprisonment. In June, the Tata court had convicted 6 people for the 1993 blast, one of whom, Mustafa Dosa, had died of a heart attack a few days after his conviction. More details in this report.
Weeks after convicting them in the 1993 Mumbai blast, the special Tata court awarded the death penalty to Tahir Merchant and Firoz Abdul Rashid Khan. It sentenced gangster Abu Salim and Karimullah Khan to life imprisonment. Riyaz Siddiqui, who was absolved of the conspiracy charge, was sentenced to 10 years in jail.
2 आरोपियों को डेथ पनिशमेंट दी है और बाकी के 2 आरोपियों को लाइफ पनिशमेंट दी है, एक को 10 साल की पनिशमेंट दी है। 5 में से 2 को डेथ, 2 को लाइफ और 1 को 10 इयर्स दिए।
Abu Salim was spared the death sentence because of India's guarantee to the Portuguese government under an extradition law. Salim was extradited in 2005. He was one of the masterminds of the serial blast along with Mustafa Dosa, who died of a heart attack after his conviction in June. Dosa was extradited from the UAE.
जो एक्सट्राडिशन ट्रीटी के मुताबिक उसे के फांसी की सजा मांग नहीं सकते थे, इससे उसके खिलाफ आजीवन कारावास बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट की साजिश में कोर्ट ने आजीवन कारावास की सजा फरमाई.
Victims of the 1993 Mumbai blast reacted to the verdict.
ये तो बहुत ही कम और फनी थिंग है, खाली 2 लाख का जुर्माना लेके उनको ऐसे सजा सुनाना मुझे लगता है कि बहुत ही कम और माइल्ड सजा है.
गुनाह छोटा हो या बड़ा हो, गुनाह गुनाह ही होता है और ये गुनाह तो माफी के लायक है ही नहीं, क्योंकि पूरी भारत की, इंडिया की इकोनॉमी हिलाने का वो लोग का प्लान था और पब्लिक को हैरान करने की बात थी. उसके लिए ये सजा उसके लिए कोई मायने नहीं रखती है, उसकी सजा मृत्यु दंड ही होनी चाहिए.
Political parties also welcomed the judgment.
टाटा कोर्ट का आज जो मुंबई ब्लास्ट के बारे में निर्णय आया है और अबू सालिम को जिंदगी भर की जेल की सजा सुनाई है, ये आतंकवाद के खिलाफ की लड़ाई में एक महत्वपूर्ण कदम है.
In a classic case of thorough investigation, all the accused were decisively arrested. UPA had brought Abu Salim after deportation from Portugal with the help of Interpol. With his conviction and life imprisonment today, and with death sentences to others, the justice is finally culminating. Now the next step should be to bring back Tiger Memon and Dawood Ibrahim, the 2 terrorists who are also guilty of these Mumbai blasts, and to ensure that they are dealt with in accordance with law.
ये एक ऐतिहासिक फैसला रहा है. 24 वर्ष का इसमें विलंब हुआ है, जो बहुत ज्यादा है. ये पीड़ित के लिए भी एक निराशा की बात है कि इतना लंबा काल उन्हें इंतजार करना पड़ा और जिन्होंने गुनाह किए हैं उनके लिए भी ये 24 वर्ष बाद शिक्षा देना अजीब सा लगता है। और तीसरा, समाज के लिए, देश के लिए, कि हमारे समाज में एक संदेश सही जाए कि अगर कोई गंभीर गुनाह करता है तो उसे तुरंत फौरन सजा होनी चाहिए।
India's financial capital Mumbai was shaken by 13 blasts on the 12th of March 1993. Property worth 27 crore rupees was damaged, while 257 people were killed and over 700 seriously injured in the attacks and subsequent communal violence that followed in the wake of Babri Masjid demolition in Ayodhya in December 1992. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from Jammu and Kashmir. The National Investigation Agency carried out searches at 11 places in Jammu and Kashmir and the National Capital Region in connection with its probe into terror funding on Thursday. Now, 9 places in Kashmir and 1 each in Jammu and Gurugram were searched in connection with the channeling of funds through trade across the line of control. Now, prominent among those searched include Hurriyat leaders Ghulam Nabi Subnji and Syed Agha Hassan Budgami and close aides of Shabir Shah, Zamir Sheikh and Razak Chaudhry. Now, Shabir Shah is at present in judicial custody after the Enforcement Directorate arrested him last month in connection with an earlier case of money laundering. The NIA registered a case on 30th of May in which the leaders of a Pakistan-based Jamaat-ud-Dawa and banned terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba Hafiz Saeed was named as an accused. The NIA has arrested people in the case of alleged funding of terror and subversive activities in the Kashmir Valley to fuel unrest there.
NIA is doing its duty. It's in the national interest. They are doing all this crackdown. And it's in the national interest. Here nobody should have any kind of objection. They are carrying out their mandate which has been given to them. And exactly NIA is carrying out the professional task assigned to them. And they are doing a good job.
तक इससे एक बात तो प्रमाणित हो गई कि जो प्रक्रिया सरकार के द्वारा प्रारंभ की गई थी ये कहीं ना कहीं किसी न किसी निर्णायक मोड़ पर लाई जाएगी और जिस प्रकार की निर्णायक कार्रवाई अब देखने को मिल रही है अलगाववादियों के प्रति या उनके समर्थकों के प्रति, इस प्रकार की कार्रवाई कई दशकों में, कई वर्षों में देखने को नहीं मिली।
अलगाववादी या उग्रवादी जो पाकिस्तान या दुनिया के किसी भी देश से यहां गैर कानूनी तरीके से पैसा लेकर आते हैं और फिर उसका इस्तेमाल भारत के खिलाफ करते हैं, इन पर रोक लगनी चाहिए। अगर एनआईए उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई कर रही है तो ये बिल्कुल सही और उचित कदम है।
More news from Jammu and Kashmir, where a civilian was killed and 15 others, including 3 policemen, were injured in a grenade attack by militants in the busy Jahangir Chowk area of Srinagar city. Now, security personnel deployed at Jahangir Chowk were the apparent target of the grenade attack at around 5:40 p.m. on Thursday. One of the injured, identified as Masnook Shah, a resident of Budgam district, succumbed to his injuries later. Now, SSP Srinagar said that the grenade thrower was also reportedly injured in the blast.
अभी ये हमारी जो फोर्सेस का क्लोजिंग टाइम था, रिपोर्टेडली सम मिसक्रिएंट हैज ट्राइड टू थ्रो अ ग्रेनेड ऑन द डिप्लॉयमेंट, बट रिपोर्टेडली वो उसके अपने पास ही फट गया एंड ही इज आल्सो हिमसेल्फ इंजर्ड। अब लेट अस वेरीफाई द अदर फैक्ट्स।
Now, the Border Security Force has apprehended 3 Pakistani fishermen and seized 18 boats from Harmi Nala Creek area along the Indo-Pak border in Gujarat's Kutch district. The BSF said that during the operation, the patrolling unit fired 2 rounds in self-defense and to stop the other fishermen on these boats from fleeing. However, many fishermen managed to escape. With this fresh operation, a total of 5 Pakistani nationals have been held in the last 2 days, while 21 of their boats were seized during patrolling in the creek area by the BSF. The Harmi Nala is a sluggish and a shallow water channel within the territorial border of India. It is accessible from the Pakistani side through a canal or channel approximately. However, it cannot be accessed easily from the Indian side as it is marshy, being part of the run of Kutch. On to some other news now. Nirmala Sitharaman took charge as the Defence Minister on Thursday. She said that her priority will be to ensure defence preparedness, a faster execution of defence deals and a big focus on Make in India in defence production. Here is a report.
I shall be Raksha Mantri round the clock. India's first full-time woman Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman took charge on Thursday. She relieved Finance Minister Arun Jaitley of this additional responsibility he held for 5 months after former Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar shifted to Goa as Chief Minister earlier this year. Listing out her priorities, Sitharaman said she will focus on enhancing defence preparedness and ensuring speedy implementation of defence deals.
It is important that the Indian armed forces receives all the attention in terms of giving them every necessary endowment and equipment which is necessary for them to perform their duty with the best of equipments available.
Sitharaman will also look to making defence production the main driver of the Make in India campaign. She also placed the welfare of ex-servicemen as a key item on her agenda.
India, as you know, is a very big defence equipment procurer. We'd rather have as many where possible, with technology coming in also, that Make in India takes over so that we benefit from what is manufactured in India.
On her first day in office, Sitharaman approved financial assistance for military veterans. She released a grant of over 13 crore rupees for 8,685 ex-servicemen, widows and dependents from the Armed Forces Flag Day Fund. Before Nirmala Sitharaman, Indira Gandhi had served as Defence Minister, first in 1975 and again in 1980 to 82. But Sitharaman will be the first woman to hold the position full-time. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded his 3-day first bilateral visit to Buddhist majority in Myanmar yesterday. And before leaving for home, he visited the famed Shwedagon Pagoda in Yangon. He also paid tributes at the grave of the last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar and also prayed at a Kali temple on the last day of his visit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday wrapped up his 3-day trip to Myanmar with a visit to the famous 2,500-year-old Shwedagon Pagoda in Yangon. He also planted a Bodhi tree sapling at the pagoda complex that signifies a shared cultural heritage with Myanmar. The Shwedagon Pagoda is considered the most sacred Buddhist site for the Myanmari citizens. Modi also visited the Bojok Aung San Museum, where he was accompanied by Myanmar State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi. The Prime Minister's visit saw bilateral discussions with Suu Kyi on Wednesday that included the ongoing crisis in ethnically riven Rakhine State. Suu Kyi called the crisis one of the biggest challenges that her country has faced.
Well, this is one of the biggest challenges that we've had to face, because you know that the situation in the Rakhine has been difficult for many decades, and in fact it goes right back to pre-colonial times. And I think it's a little unreasonable to expect us to resolve everything in 18 months. As you know, that we have all been in the administration only 18 months. We're trying to progress as quickly as possible on the development front.
The Prime Minister also paid tribute at the Martyrs Mausoleum and offered prayers at the Sri Kali temple built by Tamil migrants in 1871 when Burma province was part of British India. Before leaving for Delhi, Modi also visited the grave of Bahadur Shah Zafar and paid floral tributes. The Prime Minister also tweeted a picture of himself at the Mughal ruler's grave. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in related news, in a show of solidarity with Myanmar, India has refused to be a part of a declaration adopted at an international conference in Indonesia's Bali. An Indian parliamentary delegation led by Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan dissociated itself from the Bali Declaration adopted at the World Parliamentary Forum on Sustainable Development, saying that it carried inappropriate reference to the violence in Rakhine State. The Indian delegation took the stance on a day when Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded his visit to Myanmar, where he expressed solidarity with the government there against the extremist violence in the Rakhine State. A press release issued by the Lok Sabha Secretariat said this was in view of the fact that the declaration, which was to be adopted at the conclusion of the forum, was not in line with the agreed global principles of sustainable development. The purpose of convening the parliamentary forum was to arrive at a mutual consensus for the implementation of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which requires inclusive and broad-based development processes. Therefore, the proposed reference to the violence in Rakhine state in the declaration was considered as not consensus-based and appropriate. On to some other news now. Some union ministers and other constitutional functionaries met Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Thursday. Among them were Minister for Drinking Water and Sanitation, Uma Bharti, and others who met the Vice President included Union Minister for Food Processing Industries, Harsimrat Kaur Badal, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Shashikant Sharma, Manipur Governor, Dr. Najma Heptullah, and they also met the Vice President and the Minister of State, Independent Charge for New and Renewable Energy, Raj Kumar Singh, also met the Vice President. The Vice President also met 3 state governors, Lieutenant General retired Nirbhay Sharma, the Governor of Mizoram, Dr. Kiran Bedi, Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry and Dr. K.K. Paul, the Governor of Uttarakhand. Meanwhile, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu will today embark on a 2-day visit to Ranchi. On the first day of his visit, he will hold an interaction with the neo-literates and literary instructors organized by the Jharkhand government in Tana Bhagat Indoor Stadium in Khelgaon. On Saturday, he will be the chief guest and he will lay the foundation stone for the construction of Ranchi Smart City projects. Time for a very short break here. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Thanks for staying with us. News from Odisha now. BJP President Amit Shah has said that his party will fight the next election in Odisha alone. Now, criticizing the current government in the state, Shah said that even though he had no enmity with the ruling BJD, but he was upset at the state of mismanagement in Odisha. He also criticized Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik for celebrating the Best Administrator award given to him by a news magazine. In Odisha, for a 3-day visit, the BJP president also said that India had made a substantial progress in different sectors and carved a separate identity for itself in the international arena during 3 years of the NDA regime.
बीजेडी से एनोइड नहीं है, यहाँ अव्यवस्था और भ्रष्टाचार है, इस पर हमारा गुस्सा है। ओडिशा का विकास थमा पड़ा है, इस पर हमारा गुस्सा है। और ओडिशा का विकास अगर जो बीजेडी नहीं कर सकती है तो मुझे लगता है कि जगह कर देनी चाहिए। हम अकेले ओडिशा में चुनाव लड़ेंगे। नो अलायंस।
And Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi will visit Maharashtra today. He will visit Nanded and Parbhami during the day-long visit. Rahul Gandhi will address a regional Congress convention at Nanded at 9:30 a.m. today. He will then address a rally in Parbhani where he will speak about farmers' woes and demonetization. Rahul Gandhi's visit comes in the backdrop of 580 farmers committing suicide between January and August this year. And now an update on swine flu cases across the country. Well, as the number of swine flu cases continue to surge in the country, the death toll in Odisha rose to 44, with the 2 fresh deaths reported from different private hospitals in the state capital. People infected with the H1N1 virus now stands at 305. Now, to keep a check on the spread of the virus, the state government has issued guidelines to both the government and private hospitals for the treatment of swine flu patients. Meanwhile, in Madhya Pradesh, swine flu has claimed 44 lives, with 5 patients each succumbing to the deadly H1N1 virus in Bhopal and Indore districts since 1st of July this year. And so far, 226 positive cases of swine flu have been reported from different areas of Madhya Pradesh. 45 patients were found infected with the H1N1 virus in Bhopal and 36 in Jabalpur. In Indore, 17 positive cases of swine flu have been detected during this period. Time for some international news now. In the most powerful Category 5 Hurricane Irma has killed at least 10 people across a number of Caribbean islands. Now, one of the strongest storms ever recorded has caused a widespread destruction and a number of casualties in the northern Caribbean islands, especially Barbuda, which has literally been reduced to a rubble. Florida, meanwhile, is on high alert and has ordered evacuations, while the Carolina and Georgia have also declared emergencies. After leaving a trail of destruction across the Caribbean and 10 deaths reported, Hurricane Irma is battering Haiti and the Turks and Caicos Islands. Packing winds of up to 290 km per hour, the Category 5 hurricane, the highest possible level for a hurricane, is posing a risk of storm surge of up to 20 feet in low-lying Turks and Caicos. The British Territory Islands are getting heavy rain and powerful winds. Residents have been told to stay put.
The Royal Fleet Auxiliary ship RFA Mounts Bay is in position, providing assistance from Royal Marines and Army engineers, and a military task group is on its way on HMS Ocean with several hundred UK troops. And of course we will continue to look at what is needed and provide what is necessary.
Haiti is also vulnerable as its infrastructure is yet to recover from a devastating earthquake in 2010. The storm has caused some damage to buildings and flooding, with rain and winds lashing the northern port city of Cap Haitien. People in low-lying areas have been evacuated.
Position qui prend c'est Jean là toute équipe protection civile là est motivée, tout le monde sous pied depuis hier après-midi disons, mais la police là c'est non seulement pour passer l'abri provisoire mais pour passer dans zone à risque.
Meanwhile, the US is bracing up for the storm with warning that Irma will make landfall in southern Florida as a dangerous major hurricane and bring life-threatening storm surge and wind impacts to much of the state. Mandatory evacuations have been issued for many counties in South Florida. Residents of the coastal cities are stocking up food and other essential supplies. Navy ships loaded with equipment and supplies have been dispatched to assist with relief efforts. Flights to and from airports in Florida are being suspended. Schools have been closed.
We're very concerned. We are working very hard. We have tremendous groups of talented people there. The people of Florida are like the people of Texas, Louisiana. You've seen how the people of our country have reacted under this tremendous pressure and these horrible things that we call hurricanes. This is something that is probably bigger, not as much water, but much more power than Harvey.
Hurricane Irma first struck the dual island nation of Antigua and Barbuda. At least one death of a child was reported on Barbuda. About 95% of the buildings here have suffered damage.
On a per capita basis, the extent of the destruction in Barbuda is unprecedented. And it is unprecedented based on the type of storm. I mean, Hurricane Irma would have been easily the most powerful hurricane to have stormed through the Caribbean, and it is extremely unfortunate that Barbuda was right in its path.
Island of Saint Martin, which is a French territory and has a Dutch section, also suffered terrible damage. At least 5 deaths have been reported and more than 50 were injured. 60% of the homes have been made uninhabitable. At least 3 people died in Puerto Rico. British Overseas Territories, Anguilla, where 1 death was reported, and the British Virgin Islands were also caught in the extreme weather. Red Cross says an estimated 1.2 million people have been affected by Irma, and that could rise sharply to 26 million. There are also concerns that disease could spread rapidly in areas where drinking water and sanitation services have broken down. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Now, an update on the North Korean crisis in the country's nuclear tests have attracted global condemnation after seeking tough sanctions against North Korea at the United Nations. US President Donald Trump has said that he hopes to resolve the North Korean nuclear threat without the use of military. He said that the military is an option, but it is not inevitable. Meanwhile, Mexico has expelled the North Korean ambassador from their country, declaring him persona non grata. Here is a report.
US President Donald Trump hopes to avoid launching military action against North Korea, Speaking at a White House press conference along with the Emir of Kuwait, Trump said that military action was an option after North Korea's nuclear test, but it's not inevitable. Trump also said attempts at diplomacy with Pyongyang had failed over the past decades. He added that if it comes to military action, it would be a sad day for North Korea.
Military action would certainly be an option. Is it inevitable? Nothing's inevitable. It would be great if something else could be worked out. Hopefully, we're not going to have to use it on North Korea. If we do use it on North Korea, it will be a very sad day for North Korea.
Cannot be seen as defensive. He wants to be.
The United States has already proposed a resolution at the UN seeking broad new sanctions on North Korea and assets freeze of leader Kim Jong-un. Moving in line with the US stand on North Korea, Mexico has expelled the North Korean ambassador, declaring him persona non grata. In a statement, Mexican government said that it had given Kim Jong-il 72 hours to leave Mexico, calling North Korean nuclear activity a grave threat to the region and the world. Russia and Japan too have decisively condemned North Korea's launch of a ballistic missile that flew over Japan. Addressing a joint news conference in Vladivostok in Russia, Vladimir Putin and Shinzo Abe agreed that the crisis around the North Korea should be resolved only by political means.
Мы решительно осудили пуск северокорейской ракеты средней дальности, которая 28 августа пролетела над территорией Японии, а также новые ядерные испытания, проведенные 3 сентября. Своими действиями Пхеньян, конечно, создает серьезную угрозу миру и безопасности во всем регионе.
弾道ミサイルの発射や過去最大の核実験を行った北朝鮮を最も強い言葉で非難します。北朝鮮がこのような道を進んでいけば、北朝鮮に明るい未来はない。このことを北朝鮮に分からせて、その政策を変えさせる必要があります。
Meanwhile, European Union ministers met in the Estonian capital Tallinn to discuss the situation on the Korean peninsula. The informal meeting came after the bloc's foreign policy chief, Federica Mogherini, called on member states to sanctions on North Korea following Pyongyang's largest nuclear test to date. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to sports now, and ace tennis player Juan Martín del Potro has reached the semi-finals of the ongoing US Open Tennis Championship at the Flushing Meadows in New York. The 24th seeded Martín del Potro beat five-time champion Roger Federer 7-5, 3-6, 7-6, 6-4 in the quarterfinals. He will now face Rafael Nadal in the fight for the final spot. Meanwhile, in another shock exit, Sloane Stephens defeated 9th seed Venus Williams in the first All-American Women's semi-final, defeating the two-time champion 6-1, 0-6, 7-5. Stephens, who is playing after returning from foot surgery, moves on to her first Grand Slam final, where she will play the winner of the other All-American semi-final between Coco Vandeweghe and Madison Keys. And also in women's doubles, Sania Mirza of India, along with her Chinese counterpart, has entered the semi-final of the women's doubles. The duo defeated the Hungarian-Czech pair of Taimia Babos and Andrea Lakova 7-6, 6-4. That's it from me and my team in this edition of News. But news and updates continue on your channel. Thanks so much for watching.